Welcome to the AI Daily Deep Dive. Now, just so you know right up front, this entire deep dive, we're about to do all the research, the script, everything. It was actually researched and generated entirely by AI.
That's right. And today is Friday, May 16th, 2025. We're going to walk through what we think are the 5 most interesting AI news stories that popped up today.
Yep, think of it as your quick, essential update. We'll cover the key stuff to keep you in the loop without getting too bogged down.
Exactly. Concise and insightful.
Okay, let's get right to it then. Story number 1. This takes us into Fortnite. Big Star Wars event happening there, apparently.
Yeah, and the really interesting part is this interactive Darth Vader character they've introduced.
Interactive how?
Well, you can fight him in the game. If you actually manage to defeat him, you can then recruit him.
Recruit Vader.
And then, and this is the kicker, you can have real-time voice conversations with him as a teammate.
Wow, okay. So you're talking to Darth Vader with that voice.
Exactly. And getting that voice right is key, obviously. It's powered by a mix of tech, Google's Gemini 2.0 Flash model, and ElevenLabs Flash v2.5.
Gemini 2.0 Flash. That's one of Google's newer, faster models, right? Known for being pretty efficient.
Precisely.
Yep.
And combined with ElevenLabs, it's aiming for that really iconic sound.
And it is meant to be James Earl Jones's voice, isn't it? I remember hearing something about that.
Yes, it's an AI recreation. And importantly, James Earl Jones himself had actually authorized the use of his voice for projects like this before he passed away last September.
Oh, okay. So his estate is involved in making sure his legacy continues this way.
Seems so. The idea is to honor him. So the gameplay loop is find Vader, beat him, recruit him, and then just chat using the standard Fortnite voice chat.
It's kind of wild to think about having a dynamic conversation with a character like Vader. Imagine asking him about, I don't know, the Death Star plans while you're looting. What does that do for your immersion as a player?
It definitely pushes the boundaries. Now, Epic Games has been quick to talk about privacy.
Always a concern with voice stuff.
Right. They're stating very clearly that player audio from these chats won't be stored or used for, training the AI further.
That's good. Did I hear something about a hiccup, though? Like some inappropriate language?
Yeah, there was an incident reported during a live stream where the AI Vader said something out of line. Epic apparently jumped on it pretty fast and released a patch.
So ongoing tweaks and safety measures, which you'd expect with this kind of new tech.
Absolutely. And they've also put in parental permission requirements for younger users under 13 or whatever the age of digital consent is in your country. You need that okay before using the voice feature.
Makes sense. Responsible rollout is key. Okay, so from Star Wars battles to, well, coding battles maybe. OpenAI just announced something today, May 16th.
Yes. They launched Codex. It's an AI coding agent, and it's now integrated right into ChatGPT.
An AI coding agent, like it writes code for you.
It's positioned more as a virtual coworker for software engineers. The idea is it can handle multiple coding tasks at the same time.
Okay, so like a pair programmer, but AI. What can it actually do for you if you're a developer?
Well, it's running on a model called Codex 1. That's an optimized version of OpenAI's O3 reasoning model, specifically tuned for code.
Optimized how?
It's designed to generate cleaner code, follow instructions more accurately, and here's a big one. It can run tests on the code it writes.
It tests its own work.
Yeah, iteratively. It keeps refining the code until the tests pass, which could save a lot of time, right?
Definitely. Where does it run? On your machine?
No, it operates in a secure, sandboxed cloud environment. It can connect to GitHub, though, and even preload your code repositories to understand the context.
So it can work with existing projects. What kind of tasks are we talking about?
Things like writing simpler features, fixing bugs that you point out, answering questions about the code base like, where's this function used, and running those tests we mentioned. Tasks usually take between, say, 1 and 30 minutes.
And how do you, the developer, interact with it?
It's all through the ChatGPT web app. You type your instructions, hit a code button for tasks, or an ask button for questions about the code.
And while it's working, your computer is free.
Yep, you still have full access to your machine and browser while Codex does its thing in the background.
Who gets access initially? Is it free?
Right now, it's rolling out to ChatGPT Pro, Enterprise, and Team subscribers. And for them, it's included no extra cost currently. OpenAI mentioned plans for rate limits down the line, maybe with options to buy more credits if you use it a lot. And they plan to bring it to Plus and Edu users eventually, too.
Seems like the AI coding assistant space is really heating up.
Oh, absolutely. Competition is fierce. You hear figures like 30% of code at places like Google and Microsoft is already being assisted by AI.
Wow.
And there are rumors OpenAI might be looking to acquire a coding startup called Windsurf. So they're definitely serious about this area.
And the security aspect, the sandboxing.
Yeah, they're really emphasizing that. Operating in that isolated environment. No direct internet access. It's designed to be safe when handling potentially sensitive code.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's pivot a bit now. From creating code to the rules governing creation, the U.S. Copyright Office.
Right. They just released a pretty hefty report, 108 pages, all about copyright and AI training. This was back on May 9th.
108 pages. Is this setting new law, or?
No, it's non-binding. Think of it more as the Copyright Office laying out its current thinking, providing some critical insights. But it carries weight, obviously.
So what's their main take on training AI with copyrighted stuff, infringement?
Their view is that, yeah, using copyrighted works for training could be prima facie infringement, meaning on its face, it looks like infringement unless you can prove otherwise, like with fair use.
And what about the AI model itself, the weights?
That's another big point. They argue there's a strong case that the model weights the internal data that shapes the AI's output, could infringe reproduction rights and derivative work rights if the AI's outputs end up being substantially similar to the training data. What could this mean for you as a creator or maybe an AI developer?
That's potentially huge for AI companies, isn't it? How does fair use fit into their analysis? That's always the big defense.
They tackle fair use head on. They say whether AI training is transformative, using the original work for a totally new purpose is really a matter of degree. Meaning if the AI is trained to spit out stuff that serves the same basic purpose as the original, like making images to appeal to art lovers if trained on art, then the use is, quote, at best, modestly transformative.
So they're pushing back on the idea that just because it's machine learning, it's automatically transformative.
Exactly. They challenge that idea and also the comparison to how humans learn. They also say having strong guardrails to prevent the AI from just copying its training data could actually weigh in favor of a fair use finding.
Interesting. So trying to be responsible helps your case.
Seems so. On the flip side, knowingly using pirated data for training, that weighs against fair use, though it's not automatically decisive.
And market impact, does the report look at that?
Yes, and they suggest looking beyond just direct replacement. They consider whether AI-generated works could sort of dilute the market for originals, even if they're just in a similar style.
Okay. What about licensing then? Should companies just pay to use data?
The USCO actually recommends letting the licensing market develop on its own for now. They advise against the government stepping in to create a compulsory licensing system where fees are set by law. They prefer a voluntary approach.
So let the market figure it out, at least for now. It's a really complex area.
Incredibly complex. And just as a side note, there was some political drama around this report's release. The Librarian of Congress was dismissed the day before, and the Register of Copyrights the day after. Makes you wonder.
Yeah. Okay, shifting gears again, dramatically. From copyright law to nuclear power.
Seems like a leap, right? But there's a growing argument that America's future in AI might actually hinge on nuclear energy.
How so? What's the connection?
It boils down to power. Raw, massive amounts of electricity. AI data centers are incredibly energy hungry, and they're only getting hungrier.
I've heard that, yeah.
There are projections that by 2030, data centers could eat up maybe 4% of global electricity. That's a huge slice of the pie.
4%. Wow. Okay, so where does nuclear fit in?
Well, there's this interesting potential symbiosis. On one hand, AI itself can actually help optimize nuclear power plants.
Wow.
Through things like better data analysis for predictive maintenance or optimizing the fuel cycle. Apparently, the Diablo Canyon plant in California is already using AI in some ways.
Okay, so AI helps nuclear. And the other way around.
Nuclear provides what AI data centers desperately need. Consistent, dense, reliable, 247 power. Baseload power.
As opposed to renewables, which can be intermittent.
Exactly. Solar and wind are crucial, obviously, but their output fluctuates. AI models, especially during training, need that constant, uninterrupted power supply. Nuclear offers that.
But building new nuclear plants is notoriously difficult, isn't it? Permitting public opinion.
Huge hurdles. That's the challenge. The argument is that we need to streamline the regulations and really invest in the next generation of nuclear tech.
Like those small modular reactors?
SMRs.
Precisely. SMRs are seen as potentially faster to build, more flexible, and potentially safer. Addressing those hurdles is presented as a strategic imperative. What considerations might be relevant to you when thinking about energy policy and tech?
And is there a national security angle here, too?
Definitely. The argument goes that with China advancing rapidly in AI, the U.S. can't afford to be held back by energy constraints. Relying on AI infrastructure potentially controlled by others is a risk.
So boosting domestic nuclear power helps secure our own AI progress and maintain autonomy.
That's the core idea, ensuring we have the energy foundation to support our AI ambitions. It makes sense. A powerful technology needs a powerful and reliable energy source. Okay, one final story for today, shifting from infrastructure to something more philosophical, maybe.
Yeah, this is an essay published today, May 16th, in the Los Angeles Review of Books by Michael Berry. It's called AI Nightmares, Rise of the Dead Souls.
Dead souls. That's evocative. What's the nightmare he's describing?
It's about the creeping influence of AI in fields we traditionally think of as deeply human, specifically creativity, culture, education, and translation.
Okay. And dead souls refers to.
He uses it to signify the risk of losing depth, authenticity, maybe even soul, as these fields become more mechanized by AI.
So the concern is that AI, while maybe efficient, lacks something essential.
Exactly. Barry's argument isn't necessarily that AI can't perform tasks in education or translation, but that it lacks the genuine human understanding, the grasp of context, emotion, cultural nuance that makes engagement in these areas truly meaningful. What might this perspective mean for you as someone who values that human touch?
It's a question of efficiency versus, well, humanity, I guess. Sort of. The essay is framed as a cautionary note. It's reflecting on the need to keep humans deeply involved to preserve the richness and, the diversity of culture and understanding, rather than just optimizing everything.
A reminder that just because AI can do something doesn't mean it should completely replace the human element everywhere.
That seems to be the core message, a call to think carefully about where we deploy AI in these culturally sensitive areas.
All right, so let's quickly recap the 5 big stories we dove into today. May 16th, 2025. We had Fortnite's talking Darth Vader, powered by AI voice tech.
Then OpenAI's new Codex coding agent acting like a virtual coworker for developers.
Followed by the U.S. Copyright Office's detailed report on AI training and the tricky questions around fair use.
Then the argument connecting America's AI ambitions directly to the need for more nuclear power.
And finally, that thoughtful essay by Michael Berry warning about AI nightmares and the potential loss of authenticity in creative and cultural fields. Quite a range today. It really shows how AI is touching almost everything, doesn't it? From entertainment and coding to law, energy, and culture. The questions it raises are complex and cross-disciplinary.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you listening. As you process all this, which of these developments really sticks with you? What part of today's AI news seems most significant or maybe most disruptive from your perspective?
It's definitely worth mulling over.
Thanks for taking this AI Daily Deep Dive with us today.